very pleased in a way that I've had all these experiences, but I'm still now striving to do something different. Love for life, really, yeah. Well, I start off in the morning when the telephone rings. And here the telephone can ring at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. If it rings at 6 o'clock, then someone is down at the airport and they've lost their tickets. It's my husband's fault, or the husband always says it's the wife's fault, really. So always there's a problem early in the morning. And then usually about 9 o'clock, that's when people start ringing in, for their holidays and have you got this and can you do that and can you give me a price for this. The reason I started a tourist agency was that it was one way of being your own boss, your own governor. I didn't like working for someone. I'd had enough of that in the army. It's changing now because of the possibility of a war. So gradually, I think over the next couple of weeks, 3 weeks, prices are going to start going down because no one is booking at the present moment. And that's one of the reasons at the moment that I could sit here and do a crossword, read the newspaper. The war with Iraq, I believe it has to happen because there's much too much at stake to just forget about it now. And if you go back to 1939, when the rest of the world, including England, knew what was happening in Germany, then it was more than apparent that Hitler was going to expand. Things happened then because the unit I was in, I was in 2 command, I was the 9th, which is that one there, and then the 6th, and we just had an order badge. And we were only used for attack all the time. So right throughout the war, I was just dealing with dead men, wounded men, and I think the main one was, when I was in this it was attached to a stalag. Yeah, the stalag was just there, just about 5 miles south of Vienna there. They had about 17,000 Russians in it. And I was with them for about 4 months. And that was really, that was bad. That was a period when these Russians were dying off at a rate of about 100 a day. And they were dragged out by sticking hooks in them, putting them onto stretchers, and then you had to toss the stretcher into what we used to call the meat wagon. Everything happened, somebody else near me was killed. To tell the truth, I went right through the war like this. And they used to call me, not Lucky Joe, Lucky Jim. I'm very sorry, in a way, that I had to join the army when I was young. I might have started a family earlier, I would have had a trade perhaps, but when let's say the first 8 or 9 years of your life after leaving school is taken away from you, then to make up for that is very, very difficult, isn't it? But, I'm very, very pleased in a way that I've had all these experiences, met these people. But I'm still now striving to do something different. The idea of writing my memoirs it was prompted by my son, and we were having probably about 40 or 50 of us around the table having a marvellous dinner. And you know, after a bottle of wine or two or three, we got around to talking about our forefathers, and it was then that I mentioned that I'd asked my father once when he was dying why he'd never told me about the war. And my son said, well, you know, asking you, why don't you tell us about the war? And I said, well, my father said to me, I have never told you about the war because nobody bloody well cares, which is swearing, but it was quite true. And then my son said, right, now you can start writing your memoirs because I don't want this to continue. I want to see your memoir. But then, you see, I don't know what to include. Sometimes I don't know what to include in my memoirs. If my memoirs, if they ever became published, someone is going to write to me or telephone me and say, oh no, it wasn't 2 o'clock in the afternoon he was killed, it was 2:30. So my memoirs are going to flow from me, and they're going to be as accurate as possible. Everything, as far as I'm concerned, is going to come from up there. So this is, it's very cold in here, but then I like the cold. I don't like heat, really. Everything in a way is a memory. That came from Norway, from Bergen. That one came from Greece, from Mykonos, as a matter of fact. Now that was my wife at the time. She's been dead now for 12 years. But she looked after one of my shops, and she loved cooking. That was her life. So I was quite happy to go along with it because she cooked and I ate. You know. In a way, I suppose, my life was very, very bound up with my own job and what she did. But now that she's gone, then it's like having a big vacuum, isn't it? It's like a big hole, and somewhere you've got to fill it in with things to do. So what I'm hoping to do now is to close down here and then move over to North London and set up another agency. My daughter will be going down to Spain. She's bought a place down in Spain. I see my son fairly regularly, but he's so busy, you know what professors are like, the heads have gone out here and they can only see what's in front of them. And I like it in a way because he's got his own life. So I've got to start again, really. I've got to start my life again somewhere.
Avec Gagner sa vie. Extrait 1.
Gehört sie Ihnen?
Das ist meine Zeitung.
Ja, das ist meine Zeitung.
Ja, das ist
Dieser
meine Zeitung.
Schlüssel.
I love reading, I love writing, I love people, I love traveling. I was one of the lucky ones who lived up to an age where I thought, oh, with a bit of luck, I might have another 5 years here, I might have another 10 years. Let me do some of those things. But if, for instance, you know, I might be sitting here one day and thinking to myself, well, I've had enough now. And if I really thought that I had had enough, I would be dead within 24 hours. A fellow from Bali, he was 116 when he died, and a lot of the world's press and media were around him, and he told them that when the sun shines through this column of trees and it lights on my bed, that's when I die. And that's when he died. Because you will yourself to die.